nurses, Governor Bobber, are like, good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Ask my family doctor just what I had. I said, doctor, Mr. MD, doctor. Now can you tell me what's ailing me, doctor?
Good evening, everyone. It's another Friday. It is Dr. Politics and the Political Architecture. The doctors were all off last Friday. We were all at the probably one of the best red, white, and blue dinners I've seen in a while. With the state party last Friday night, with the speaker being Mike Pompeo. And it was a great dinner. I think they had over 710 people there. Good crowd. Food was okay, but it's, it is what it is, with the food, But I will tell you this. The Lincoln Day dinner, I went to Howard County one year. They had the best vegetarian option. They gave me manicotti. I like that. Yeah. Oh, I need to put that in, don't I? Anyways, but we were at Red, White.
Howard County.
We were at Red, White, and Blue, and basically Secretary Pompeo was the keynote speaker. He did a great job, did a great talk. And I mean, Don, you were there for a little while. I think you may have ducked out before the dinner started. But
yeah, but I mean, it was going to be a good. I love the way you refer to this, Dwight. A little over 710 people. I mean, that is pretty specific. Yeah. You didn't just say over 700. You said over 710. Yeah. Well, saying 750 would have just sounded like I'm like rubbing salt in past people who couldn't get 300 people at a red, white, and blue dinner. No, I do have to tell you, our good friend Debbie, she did go.
She got lost, is what I've heard.
She got lost. Yeah, she got lost, which was not exactly a hard thing, considering I've never been in a casino before, and I had not been into that hotel casino. If it wasn't for that, I was walking around and I saw somebody who looked like they were heading there, and I just followed him. Because it wasn't clear where the event center was, and no one in the hotel was really all that helpful in that regard. So,
yeah,
I came with somebody who did not have their ID, and they wouldn't let us into the hotel, and so I kind of went through the back channels like a Haitian coyote, I guess, and I managed to find one of the workers who snuck us into the back door, and we got in completely.
What'd you need the ID for?
Secret Service in the front.
They would not let you in the casino if you didn't have an ID.
Oh yeah. Oh, but if you came in through the hotel entrance, that would have been fine.
It would have been fine. Okay.
Yeah, I came in through the hotel entrance, and I mean they had like a table there, but they just kind of wave you through.
Yeah.
I mean the Secret Service part, if that's what it was. I mean, all we had to do is make sure we emptied our pockets, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like going to the airport.
So, yeah, no, I'm glad. I mean, it's good. It's good to see these events taking place. I mean, Dwight, you were mentioning before the show, the Howard County, Lincoln Day dinner. It's good to see these taking place. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have one on the calendar for Montgomery County, but that's something
we do not.
that we keep talking about as we have a few criticisms for the way that is going. But
there's a lot of dinners on the horizon. We've got Anne Arundel. We got Howard County this coming Tuesday. Then we got Frederick County this Friday. Then we've got Kent County, and then we have Prince George's County, and then we have Baltimore City is putting on a Lincoln Reagan dinner with Byron Donalds as their speaker. Then St. Mary's, and I understand Dr. Trott informs me Anne Arundel County is going to be having a dinner in November as well, and there's Devin Nunes, I believe, is their speaker. I could be wrong, but I believe it's Devin Nunes. And I saw Jason sent out an email today. There's a whole another about 4 or 5 counties that are doing Lincoln Day dinners. Wycomico is doing a dinner as well in November. It's great when we're seeing these dinners. Allegheny, I thought Allegheny already did a dinner, but I guess it was something else. But Allegheny is also doing a Lincoln Day dinner.
Garrett County did one a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Washington County, I think, has got one coming up. It's great, counties getting out there, without a mask. You get to go in without a mask and all that stuff. It's fun. We did, red, white, and blue was great. And it was, I think it was a great event, and we could probably spend the rest of the show talking about the great red, white, and blue dinner and other events around.
But there is other news.
Bad news, it's like
not as big as red, white, and blue dinner, though.
Well, actually, Dr. Tomlinson is at WWF, or what is it? It's actually
WWE, right?
Yeah.
I'm very envious of this.
Yes.
I sent an email. It's like, if you're gonna miss Dr. Politics, it might as well be for something like that, right?
Absolutely.
That's a wholly legitimate excuse.
Yep.
I want to know if Chris is taking his fiance.
We can find out next week when he's on. Or he's probably watching us while he's watching. He's probably watching us on the phone. So let us know.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Jeff listened to us when he's driving to Michigan. Dr. Thornton.
I love your optimism as to how much you think some of these others will actually listen to us when they're involved in other events.
Yeah, I tell you, I tried to get a signal at the airport when I was there. I was going to do the show from the conveyor belt.
Hey, look, I mean, if you'd been down by baggage claim, I think I was telling Jeff that the Buster Olney of ESPN, he has during the baseball season, they have a daily podcast, the Baseball Tonight podcast. But on Monday mornings, when they record it for that day's show, he's usually at some baggage claim because he's like done the game the night before in some city. So he actually has staked out in certain airports exactly where he needs to be near baggage claim, where he doesn't get really interrupted. So yes, you too can record from baggage claim if you lay out the area.
Yeah, I met some great people there. I was talking to these people. This wonderful couple from New York. They flew down to Florida, and they're wondering. They go. We thought LaGuardia Airport was the worst airport in the world, but evidently Orlando rivals them. I go, yeah, but the weather's better here. The people are nicer here. But
yeah, look, I mean, the problem has been, a lot of these things are kind of 2020, 2021 issues on the airports, right? I mean, the travel has just been horrible this summer for a lot of people. We're used to seeing weather delays and things like that if you're coming through Chicago or Dallas, Fort Worth, places where they get thunderstorms and things like that. But the pandemic, we still have kind of this worker shortage, kind of a little bit of a pilot shortage. Schedules are compressed. Flights have been canceled like never before. So it just one thing after another, and it just piles up on top of each other. So you never know. I mean, you were talking about just your ordeal in Orlando. I mean, my wife had, she got to Salt Lake Airport to try to fly home one day, and it was forever. They just kept canceling the flight and then trying to get her on another flight. I picked her up hours later at the airport finally, but it was just a nightmare. The upside to that whole thing was that Southwest, I have to praise them on their own volition. They gave my wife $100 flight credit, to apologize for those delays. I don't think there was anything in the contract of carriage, which really protects the airlines, that said they had to do that. My wife didn't complain to them. They just went ahead and emailed her, that credit, which is great. That soothes you a little bit. Does it really make up for all the inconvenience? No, but it helps.
Yeah. And I will tell you, Southwest, I've flown down on American and I've flown down on Southwest. And Southwest is the better airline, frankly. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning. American, basically, I didn't like flying on American. It seemed like a cattle car, frankly. While on Southwest, also I find the people on Southwest are friendlier. They don't seem to be all uptight, And I like the best part on my way back. I was boarding class A4, so I was the fourth person on the plane.
Did you pay extra to get up there?
$10. Evidently at the gate you only pay $10 on the website. It was like $40.
Yeah, I think it's something like $25 or $30, something like that. Yeah, it's if you get an A, you're obviously great. If you get an B, that's pretty good. And anything after that gets never really sure where you're gonna.
Yeah, I was in B initially, and then I'm like, why not? It's like $10, so get a
yeah.
you know.
So that helps. And as long as there are no unruly passengers, which has been another problem past year, then you're probably good to go and everything like that. All right, let's just talk about the stuff that's going on here in our backyard here in DC. The nation's Nancy Pelosi, who is supposed to be, really a kind of a master politician, a good, just an excellent vote counter. She knows she has rallied, has kept her coalition, her caucus together over time. It's all falling apart. I mean, whatever reputation she had for all of this, I think is being completely shattered and blown to bits based on how she has struggled to move forward, with all of Biden's spending plan. I mean, and part of the problem, I think, too, is that they are, she's been holding fast. They've got to have this $0.5 trillion package. And by pushing that huge amount, she can't, she got, they got initial buy-in as time has gone along. Now you've got 25, 30 of the progressives, the OCs, the Jalapaws, Jeffals, all these other people, the squad people, all these, they're all, we want to make sure that you don't compromise and you get everything through, and then you've got Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema who are saying in the Senate, which you have to have obviously their cooperation to actually make it into law. They're balking at the price tag of this whole thing. She called for a vote. She's had to postpone the vote. We did get a spending, temporary spending bill kind of through so that we can keep running the government for the time being. But the Democrats are they're fighting. They're having a problem. I mean, Joe Biden's going to Capitol Hill to try to, twist arms and things like that. But I don't really think that Joe Biden's got a lot of political capital that he can use. These people, the Democrats are in complete disarray, with all of this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the Democrats won. I think it's this is one of those things. It's like, boy, it's kind of like where do we go wrong? They thought everybody would blindly follow them along, for their on their radical agenda. The funny thing happened is, what's funny is all related. Joy Behard's vitriol screech against Kristen Sinema is really funny considering she's a progressive Bernie Sanders Democrat.
I think what we see with this, how easy it was to have the orange man bad and like kind of the boogeyman Republican argument. That I think what you see here is like, I've always joked that the Democratic Party seems like just a coalition of identities.
They are.
They one identity. Yeah, it's just one identity away from being a Republican. Like, they're like, I'm a Democrat because of whatever issue, environmental issues, race issues, gender, and so forth. And so I think
I'm a Democrat because I want the trees to be allowed to vote in elections. I'm a Democrat because I'm offended by people having nice things.
It's easy to have when you have a boogeyman.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, we have to stick together because the boogeyman, the Republicans are going to come for us. But when you take out the boogeyman and you have all houses of Congress, you have both houses of Congress, and you have the White House, then you basically say, oh, wait, well, we are fully in control. And the fact that they were even talking about shutting down the government, and the fact that and then these squabbles, I'm like, their little move about not having the CBO look at the infrastructure bill was just comical, and it was just funny to see Democrats pushing back and say, "Wait, we probably need to see the price tag for this CBO before we actually move forward and actually voting on it." But they wanted to sweep it under the rug, and it failed. I think it's you see the coalition, you see how weak this coalition is, and I think in some ways I think that it should, like. Trump used to joke about how the size of his rallies and the size of Biden's rallies. And I think what you're seeing here is like there is it's a coalition. The Democratic Party has become a coalition of anti-Republican. That glue that glues together the coalition is very fragile. It's not going to stick together. It's breaking apart. And so maybe they need to revive Trump. Maybe they need to have some kind of bring him back to Capitol Hill in order to mobilize all the Democrats to have a coalition again.
Well, here's the thing with and this is yet to be seen. We've seen the Democrats fight. We've also seen them come back together really fast, circle the wagons. I get a feeling this time we may not see that wagon circling as much because I think there are actual Democrats that are fed up with the AOC and the squad and the leadership kowtowing to AOC and the very progressive wings, and I think you're going to see some interesting stuff come out at the 2022 elections. You're going to see Democrats running away from Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. I think it'll be like the 1994 races where everybody's running away from Bill Clinton, and I think that's what it's going to be like. Joe Biden is toxic right now. I mean, his popularity has sunk. The guy, he doesn't have one success to point to. Only thing he can point to is I gave you guys $1,400, or as he would say, I gave you $1,400, man. It's like, what more do you want? Because he's botched the border, he's botched foreign policy, he's botched domestic, and let's just be blunt on this. If it weren't for President Trump and Operation Warp Speed, there would be no vaccine right now. If the Democrats had their way, there would be no vaccine for COVID right now. We'd all be under lockdown. We'd all be, sitting at home because, we'd have no vaccine.
Yeah, well, we still have that thing where, Kamala Harris, right? She was like, I don't want to take the Trump vaccine, right? That type of thing. But, and now everybody's thankful that there was a vaccine. But I think Breacher, you made a really good point here in terms of the Democrats' coalition. Is very weak and is very fragile because, as you had so rightfully said, we kind of have the boogeyman there with Donald Trump, and he's in the picture, but he's not in the picture. I mean, Trump he's got a big enough ego. He doesn't want to ever go away. So, and he's got a tremendous amount of influence over the party, but he's not really doing anything that's, that they can point to, that since he's not in power, you can't blame him for the stuff that's going wrong, being laid bare on this. The whole idea about not trying to find the true cost of this. I mean, the Wall Street Journal had pointed out that this is not a $3.5 trillion project, but this is a $5 trillion at the very least, because of the way the math is being calculated by Democrats. And then, the Democracy and Biden, these guys, they became so sensitive about it. They've come out and said, actually, the cost is zero. It's like, wait a minute, who in the heck is going to believe that there is no cost of this, right? I mean, it's like, what planet are you on? I mean, it's like, what are you smoking? And you're right. And Dwight, you're right. I mean, in terms of running away, Joe Biden is absolutely toxic, because that's what when I said earlier. He goes to Capitol Hill, but what's his political capital? His popularity is sinking like a stone. Mm-hmm. How can you convince the Democrats to go along with your plan and get them to get back together when your popularity has just cratered? And so the Democrats are like, well, this guy, we can't use him next year on the campaign trail at this point. So
he can't use Camilla either.
And those progressives. Those progressives are showing a lot of strength. I mean, they make a lot of noise. They don't make any sense, but they make a lot of noise, and they're really gumming up the works for Pelosi. She can't. I don't see how she gets a vote. She wants to really put a vote through. You never want to go up there and put a vote up if you have the votes. But when in the heck is she going to be able to get the votes for a $3.5 trillion package? I don't see it happening. At this point in time, I longer term, no one wants to shut down technically, but I think we've seen what happens when the Republicans shut the government down. They get pilloried. I want to see what happens with the Democrats in charge, with the government shut down. What happens to them? They're already going low. Will they sink even lower? The one thing I'm sure that will not happen is that the debt ceiling, will be, they'll figure a way to rectify that by October 18th. They'll either suspend it again or they'll raise the debt ceiling. I mean, I thought, Janet Yellen now is kind of like, well, we need to just that ceiling. And I'm like, okay, I realize that we are terrible. Our Congress, they're terrible about controlling the spending. But the very idea that you would not have a debt ceiling at all, to at least have something to say to try to keep you to live within your means, and I say that very loosely, is just insane. I mean, it's just like, all right, it's like, all right, the sky's the limit. We don't care anymore. Nobody will be able to control anything at that point if you eliminate the debt ceiling. So this is just, to me, that's a recipe for disaster. And it's all with the Democrats and consist. One side doesn't know what the other side, they can't agree on anything. I mean, I'm loving it. I mean, I'm sitting back here and I'm loving all the discord here. They're just not getting anywhere.
What were their priorities when they came to town? Statehood for DC. That's not going to happen. That's dead now. And I've always told my Democrat friends, you guys really think Joe Biden's going to give you guys statehood? He has no reason to give you statehood. It's not like you're going to go vote Republican, and why would he want to give you statehood if you guys are willing to do his bidding for nothing? I go, Bill Clinton could have given you guys statehood. Barack Obama had a supermajority in both houses. There is not what a Republican could have done. If he really wanted to give, that could have been bill number 1, statehood for DC, and that would have been done, and nothing we could have done to stop Barack Obama. But no, Barack Obama wanted to focus on Obamacare. You like your doctor, you can keep him. You like your insurance, you can keep it. So Joe Biden is just a long line of Democrats that have failed Washington, D.C. There's no statehood. I mean, I still see, I don't know if you guys watch stuff online, or I noticed CW has been running commercials to a couple of things. They've got the CW stars pushing for the new Voting Rights Act. And I'm like, who can't vote right now? The Voting Rights Act is, we don't need a new Voting Rights Act, quite frankly. Anyone who's registered to vote is able to go and vote, and they're also pushing kill the filibuster. They go, we can never get anything done, even if we win elections. We need to kill the filibuster, And I don't think they're, like, none of that stuff is going to happen. They're pushing, and if they think that a Republican Congress and a Republican Senate, that's going to come through, it's going to come 2022. We're going to have a Republican Senate and a Republican House. I'm more and more confident as I see the two-ring circus, which is called Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer's big tent in D.C. No way, no how do they hold on to power. And I think Joe Biden becomes a lame duck president after 2022. Even though I actually think Joe Biden's going to put himself out there to run for re-election in 2024. I don't see him sitting out, because a lot of people thought he'd be gone by now. He wouldn't be. He would have resigned, and Camilla would be president. All would be great in the world, because we finally have a woman president in America. And that's basic, but that's not. None of that's going to happen. And I tell you, the alarm bells are going to be the Virginia. Keep an eye on the Virginia governor's race. If Terry McAuliffe goes down, it is really, really bad news for the Democrats.
Yeah,
right. Well, I mean, you're right. You're right in general on those points. I mean, look, Kamala Harris is not very popular. I mean, she's more popular now than Biden, which was a reversal of how it was earlier. But she's been nowhere to be seen on virtually anything at this point in time. I think the Democrats are very disillusioned with what they've got with this whole Biden Harris thing. I mean, I could see Biden coming up on 2024. Just basically not running, just like LBJ, right? Just decided declined to run because he didn't see a path how he could get elected, and so he just cut and run rather than go ahead and face the music. I mean, Joe Biden is making Jimmy Carter look like a good president at this point in time. I know It's real. It's that's look. Remember, I mean, we're not even 9 months into this presidency. I mean, Carter had 4 years to and bungled everything, but we're not even 9 months in. I mean, what are we going to be facing here in the next 39 months or so? If this is like like the worst start to a presidency, in modern history. It is just unbelievable, and the media is having a hard time supporting this, right? I mean, we know that they were, they're in the pocket of the Democrats, of the liberals, but even the media, as liberal as they are, they have struggled because Biden has made so many mistakes and has bungled so many things. It's hard for them to maintain their loyalty to him and just turn a blind eye to things. And so, they've been forced to report on things that they normally probably wouldn't have done. But, when it becomes too obvious, you actually have to do the reporting on it and expose the guy that you supported. But it's a tough road to hoe, even for the liberal media to try to say, okay, it's out there. This administration has no clue on what they're doing. And look, Jen Psaki, I mean, she's visibly kind of having verbal brawls with reporters that are not named, Peter Doocy of Fox News. I mean, she's having issues with New York Times and others. These are supposed to be her allies, but she's certainly not treating them as much because they ask a tough question or something that she doesn't like. She's now kind of snipping at them. I think Jen has shown kind of that her gingerness, that fiery redheaded type of temperament that's coming through, and she's got a very short fuse now, right? And it's just she's not well, and she's less than 9 months into the job. I wouldn't be surprised if Jen Psaki gets to a point here in the next few months and says, enough is enough. I can't defend this guy anymore. I gotta leave because of before my sanity.
Yeah, and this is a woman that was going after President Trump when he was in the White House, and she was part of the problem. By the way, I've got a picture of Jen Psaki if she were a happy gal. This is Jen Psaki.
Yeah, I know what's coming. I think
that is Jen Psaki. That's when she was happy. This is Earth 32. This is Breacher's Earth, where Accelerated Man and Breacher live and they fight crime and so on. But that's her. She's a happy gal, But
I have to admit, when I first saw that, I thought that was a great thing to have. Is that I will initiate the two together.
Oh, wait till you see my final thoughts image I got for tonight.
You wanted to say something about Psaki and all these things.
If I could just add one thing, what's interesting about this administration is you see this, Biden's been there for a long time, decades. Kamala Harris is kind of a seasoned, she's new, but she's kind of seasoned in politics. The idea is that Obama was very good at navigating kind of landmines and getting past certain things. If there's anything, I don't know very much about politics, but what I do know is that emergencies and crises are good ways of getting things passed. And you saw that, we had 20-year anniversary of 9/11. You can see how the Department of Homeland Security gets rushed through right after that. And there's major overhauls, major things get passed in the moments of crises because the country just move together. What's interesting, this administration should know that, right? They should know that that you could create a crisis and you could say, well, because of this crisis, we have to act boldly. They haven't done that. And so they've been trying to, it almost reminded me that this infrastructure bill reminded me so much of the Clinton healthcare plan in the 1990s, where they were literally going on these lecture tours and they'd go around talking about what the bill, and they would get we can go back to June, where they were still having bipartisan efforts of the Senate reconciliation bill and having Lindsey Graham being a part of certain conversations. It just dragged on for months, and at the end of the day, the momentum for it just died out. It was not bound to be sustained. And I think what you're starting to see here is they're just not very good at and the idea of marshaling kind of national support behind a certain issue. And I think they've blown it with this one right here. And I think they've also showed their hand of how volatile the coalition is. The administration really didn't have that much time to really kind of enact these big bold efforts to come through. And I think now with time it's just like dissipating. His support is dropping, and it's going to be tougher to get to build it back up to even closer to 50%, because I think it's like so I you know, you obviously want a president to do well because it's for the sake of the country, but like in some ways it's not. I don't see it. And before 2022, I think it's and it's funny that they create their own crises in the sense of like, well, we'll throw something to distract the Republicans or the conservatives. We'll just say we'll do a federal vaccine mandate where basically we'll throw that out there and let people bicker about it, so we can just paint Republicans as anti-science and anti-medicine. And it doesn't really quite do the trick for them. It just antagonizes a whole sector of the population. I think this past week we saw it now with like the vaccine passports in New York, where like Black Lives Matter now is taking like umbrage on this policy. So it's not really playing out in their favor either. So this like these tactics to distract the right, to try to keep the coalition, and it's playing defense. They're not playing offense, and they're losing ground. Like, so I just don't see them being. They can be successful at this point. I don't see them being any more successful in the time going forward.
Yeah, and politics has changed. I mean, I think I hate to use the word polarized, but I mean I think that it really is the word of how we've seen the nature of how Congress and how the Senate is has become. There's a lot more bickering even within themselves. And really, I think with the Democrats in the House, I mean, the rise of the squad and these progressive, these far lefties, is really creating a problem for them. Dwight was talking about when they came into power. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes the Democrats made in this, is that they were extremely overconfident. I think they thought that they controlled everything, that was some kind of a mandate, but they forgot that they didn't beat Trump because of policy. They beat Trump because Trump, was Trump. It was an anti-Trump, vote for the most part. Trump said a lot of things. He probably, if he just had been a little quieter, he probably would have won re-election, hadn't gotten into so many different things. But it wasn't that Joe Biden had any bold new policy or anything that he was going to do to change America or to make America better, than it had been under the Trump years. It was just that he wasn't Donald Trump, and he was going to maybe bring the country back together as if it needed some kind of healing or whatever. But that overconfidence, so they throw out all these big, spending tax bills and everything like this. Like, okay, we got everything. We're just going to steamroll Congress. We're just going to throw this on the American public, and they're going to have to accept it. All the climate change garbage, all the higher taxes in there. But as time has gone along, since they couldn't rush it through, they couldn't get it to the point. They couldn't. Now people are sitting back and they're saying, we really need to take a look at what's in there. Right? And as they do, you've got Democrat factions in there saying, oh, wait a minute. He's like, no, we got to push back on this because our constituents don't want that, right? I mean, this is bad for their business and all these things. So this is kind of like a big omnibus bill almost. And that now they're saying, a lot of Democrats are saying, no dice. Even some of the moderates are saying, no, we can't accept this big package. I mean, look, Manchin, I don't even like the idea of spending $1 trillion or $1.5 trillion,
Yeah.
1.2 trillion. But at least Manchin is thrown down saying, hey, let's bite off a smaller chunk of this before we get to the bigger one. But the Democrats, Pelosi's, they're kind of like this all or nothing policy. You take my $3.5 trillion or nothing. Well, guess what? It's going to be nothing. She couldn't figure out. I can't believe how stupid she has been. It's like, take what you can get at this point, because that would be some kind of victory. It actually, would be right now, Biden is facing a huge defeat by not getting anything done. At least if you got $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, it's something. Do you
think this would be like when President Trump, when Chuck Schumer shut the government down? It was all about more money for the wall, and they finally started. He had less money than they initially started with. Funding for the wall. I mean, obviously, a smart guy, the president, and came with all the ways to fund the wall and build the wall. But that's the other thing we do. That's one thing people don't seem to understand is there's a whole lot of wasting of money going around with taxpayers. I don't know, Don, when you went to Red, White, and Blue, did you go up 95, or did you take 29 up to 100 to get over there?
Well, we went to Arundel. We went to the mall first.
Mm-hmm.
So we came through the BW Parkway.
Okay. There was traffic on 95, and I was taking Dr. Jeff home. So I went up 29 because of the traffic. I jumped off it by where he lives. And basically then I'm coming down 29. They're resurfacing Route 29 again. They just resurfaced it, I think, 5 years ago? They don't need to resurface the Beltway. They're resurfacing the road between Connecticut, what is it, between Georgia Avenue and Connecticut. They're doing some resurfacing work there. They had all the roads milled. What are you guys doing? It's like, you just did this. Like, I want to say the Beltway, they just resurfaced maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. What is it? They just have a lot of money coming out of their ears at State Highway, or
I do remember a lot of resurfacing on the Beltway probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's in their improvement budget to resurface. I mean, those are heavily traveled. But there are a lot of other roads in Montgomery County, a lot of other roads throughout the state that probably are in bigger need of getting resurfaced. The Beltway, right? There's just
and 29 for that matter, frankly.
Yeah,
29 Georgia. Yeah, they're busy. They're too busy putting up bike lanes everywhere. I don't know if you noticed on Old Georgetown Road, they took out a lane. Now it's only, instead of 3 lanes, it's 2 lanes. And they got one car lane is used for bikes. They did the same thing on University Boulevard, basically from Northwood High School all the way to Wheaton.
See, those are my old stomping grounds, at least to Northwood, Silver Spring area. I don't get to go down there, and I'm thankful that I basically don't go too many places. I mean, I'm basically locked in the whole Gaithersburg Germantown circle, and so that's all. That's pretty much all I do. I don't go down to the other areas as much anymore, and a lot of times I think I'm thankful for not having to do that at all. But it's amazing to see what we have seen with this administration and what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing. We're going to have this battle is going to go on, throughout the next couple of weeks as they try to figure out there. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I mean, Nancy is going down to defeat on this. The only way that they get anything out of this is that they have to basically swallow their pride here and say, yeah, let's go ahead and take the smaller package because we can get that through, and then Manchin and Sinema would support that. We get that, and then go back and see if we can get more. But what's interesting about all this stuff too is that there was an editorial, an op-ed in, it was an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, I guess it was this morning, and Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, is running for re-election, and he came in on a whole thing about raising taxes and all this kind of stuff, and that's exactly what he did during his first term. Is that he's really been taxing the people to death. He made a no new taxes pledge at a debate apparently the other night. And it was so shocking.
Has he signed Grover's pledge? Is that
that the ABC person was moderating the debate? She hints that he said he was going to raise taxes. So she says, so let me clarify. He said, you will be raising taxes. And he said, no, I will not be raising taxes. People off because they were ready to say, this guy is a liberal lefty. He's raised taxes. All he knows how to do is, like a typical Democrat, is to raise taxes. He's taking a no new tax. I don't know how many people believe this guy that after he spent the last 4 years raising taxes, that he's not going to raise taxes anymore. But I think part of that too is that he's seeing that he's killing New Jersey. The people in New Jersey are going to leave. Mm-hmm. Thanks, the pandemic has pushed people out of those areas, right? High tax states. All the people who are working there, if their bosses, they can work remotely, then they might as well move to the Midwest. They can move to Florida. They can move to Texas where there's no taxes. Move to Nevada, no state income taxes, right? Why do you want to pay all those taxes in New Jersey if you can go somewhere else and pay nothing?
Very true. I mean, my view is, if you come to Florida, you got to wait 5 years before you're allowed to vote because, we don't want your voting habits.
Even though that's probably unconstitutional,
I know.
That's the idea that there should be some kind of mandatory waiting period when you mothers to any state would be interesting because look, I mean, you talk about the voting habits, you know, like of New Yorkers or whatever. We know how they vote, and you don't really want them voting in Florida. And I've said this before, you know, Utah, Idaho, they're facing the same problems because they're getting people from Oregon, Washington State, California. I mean, Arizona's having the same issue. That's why you're seeing like Arizona, not the reliable red, you know, state it was anymore,
but
right?
I tell you, I think Kristen Sinema can expect a primary challenge when she's up. I think she's up in 2 years or 4 years.
2024, I believe. So the left has already said they want a primary here in 2020. They are so ticked off at her. And you mentioned Joy Behar at the beginning. You know, Joy Behar is, I mean, she just, you know, what did she say? They were the enemies of democracy, I think it was what she said. You know, okay. Yes, I kept thinking when I first saw that, I said, didn't President Trump get pilloried for talking about the media being the enemies of the American people? I mean, so here's Joe Behar is not the president, obviously, and she's talking now. She's using similar language with Democrat senators, and not a lot of people are paying attention to her for saying that. Maybe because they think she's a kook anyway, but still, I mean, this is. When the Democrats, when these liberals start eating their own, there's a problem here. I mean, this is what we're seeing. A lot of these liberal, you know, pundits or journalists are starting to turn on the Democrats, and that's a problematic sign for them.
Hey, here's something else. I mean, I've heard from a reliable pollster that Terry McAuliffe's internal pollings have him down by 7. That might explain why at the debate he was kind of panic mode, playing offense opposed to defense. You know, I mean, we're crying out, he's Terry McAuliffe. He's supposed to be the heir apparent. There should be a coronation for him.
Yeah, well, he's taken a lot of flack for that debate because he made this comment about schools and teaching, right? Yeah. That did not go over well. I think. No, it did not. I think he totally miscalculated what he was supposed to be doing there.
Yeah, I don't want parents telling teachers how to do their job.
What was the comment? It was about teachers, right? It was like
but there was a bill that he vetoed when he was governor, which would, let's say, if they had sexually explicit material they were teaching in class, they would have to inform the parents. He vetoed that. And he said, "Damn right, I vetoed it." I'm paraphrasing. I don't want parents to tell teachers how to do their jobs.
Yeah, I remember. I saw this. Yeah, it's a very. I mean, even here, it's being used for like races in 2022 by candidates here who are talking about like, you know, this is exactly what we mean by like parents need to be in control. Like, I mean, it's very fascinating to see how like Terry McAuliffe. I mean, when I think of like, you know, the Clinton-esque machine, you know, the former head of the DNC, you know, good friends with Bill Clinton. Like, I mean,
and by the way, if Terry McAuliffe goes down, this sinks any prospect of a President McAuliffe, because this is his springboard to run for president. You know, he's going to use this, and in 2024 he starts if he wins, you know, in 2 years he's going to start campaigning. Actually, in a year he'll probably start campaigning for president. And I think that's colossally unfair for the folks of the Commonwealth of Virginia. You elected governor. I think, you know, Bob Dole's the only whoever ran for office, I think, and Phil Graham's the other one that did it right. You know, I'm sorry, if you're running for one office, why don't you quit the previous office? You know, Bob Dole, I think, is the only one that did it the right way. John McCain should have resigned from the Senate when he was running for president, frankly. You know, I think also John Kerry should have resigned from the Senate when he ran for president. You know, there's no reason why, you know, Governor Bush, you know, when he was governor, transferred power to his lieutenant governor when he was running for president, you know. So we do it the right way. The Democrats just can't seem to get it right, and John McCain couldn't get it. What's that, Don?
Yeah, the McAuliffe race is going to be interesting because I think that, you know, as you said, he thought it was going to be a shame that, you know, things have been turning blue in Virginia, and this was peasy. You know, the Republicans are reeling in Virginia. They're just in total disarray. They lost control of their state house. You know, so they're in a lot of trouble. But here comes Youngkin. You know, and once again, you know, the best that McAuliffe can really do is try to make time. You know, Youngkin. I mean, yeah. So Trump endorsed him, so it's like big deal. Okay, that'll help him with the Trump people, but it doesn't mean that Youngkin is going by Trump-style policies or whatever in Virginia.
Trump hasn't come out to campaign for you, Glenn Youngkin. No rallies in Virginia for Glenn Youngkin.
And really, unless flip the state house back, I mean, the delegates are up, not the senators, I believe, right? So I mean, it could be that if Youngkin runs a good campaign, which by all observations right now, he's running a pretty good campaign, because the McAuliffe camp is sending out 2, 3, 4 emails a day talking about, we're in trouble, we need more money, all these desperation emails, several a day. That is not how an incumbent, how a guy who has already been the governor before runs. You don't send out those pleading emergency, we're in trouble emails if you're actually in good shape. So there's no doubt that the campaign, they're worried. McAuliffe, if he wins, he would win by a razor thin margin. So even if he wins and it winds up being, he wins by just, like percent or 1%, then he still doesn't have a mandate. I mean, the party will have already been weakened. That could still be that the state house will flip, that the Republicans will regain control, and the delegates will now, then they'll have a divided, delegation. They'll control the House, but they won't, they won't control the Senate. Gum up the works. The Democrats, all their momentum in Virginia will have been stopped. It's to me, it's one of the crazy things is that with this governor, with Gavin Newsom in California, the recall election and out there, which I thought was a complete mistake for them to do to begin with. The Democrats think that because he withstood that challenge, they think that what he did there is a template for 2022 and beyond. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That recall election is so muddled and so many different variables in there. There's no one who can hold that up as a template for the Democrats to try to win in 2022. That was not a traditional election. I mean, in 2022, if Gavin Newsom holds back a challenge and they actually have a really good, credible, Republican, maybe for the future, yeah, but Republicans are so far behind the 8 ball on registration in California, their chances of winning the governorship in the near future is really slim to none. But Virginia, I mean, could Virginia start trending back a little more Republican? Yeah, I mean, this could be a race here.
In Virginia, the Democrats are going to lose control of at least one or maybe both of their houses. They're all up for re-election this year. And I think the Democrats are going to lose control at least one, I think maybe 2, if Youngkin pulls it off. And I think we may see the first time since Bob McDonnell see a triple crown for Virginia Republicans. They're going to have governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. Because I definitely think Jason wins the AG's race, frankly. I think people are having Mark Herring fatigue. He's been around. He's been AG. He's been around the block. He did nothing when Justin Fairfax had a rape allegation against him. I think and Justin Fairfax, got off. Nothing happened to him, and sadly, the Me Too movement doesn't apply to Democrats. But
so
I think one thing.
Only the House of Delegates is up for re-election in Virginia, not the Senate. Okay.
Oh, okay, the House. Okay.
Just the House.
Okay, so I'll say it. They'll take the House back. I don't see them holding on.
They have a good chance.
I've been looking at the polling numbers. I don't know very much about Virginia, but I know that like I guess the saying is Virginia's for lovers. But I always think of Virginia. Also, the other thing about Virginia is like it's also for like Republicans who lie to pollsters, because what we see like too often is that like Ken Cuccinelli, I'm trying to think of the other gentleman that ran, Ed Gillespie, they were behind double digits in the polls up to election day, and then they lose by Ken Cuccinelli lost by it was very close, like 1 or 2 percentage points, and then it came within like 4 or 5 percentage points. But the polls had
Ed Gillespie race and the Cuccinelli race. You had this guy named Sarwal, who sounds like a villain from a 1920s movie. Sarwal was an independent that was funded by an Obama super PAC. That's what he pulled enough votes away from Ken, and Virginia, they pulled enough votes away from Ed Gillespie. Otherwise, I mean, Ed Gillespie got more votes than Ken Cuccinelli and I forget the name of the governor before Ralph Northam. Who was the governor? Who's the governor before Ralph Northam? Was it
Was it McAuliffe?
No, he got no.
McDonald.
No, Cucci. Okay, it would have been. You had a Democrat governor between after McDonald. You didn't go McDonald to Northam. You had Democrat. But anyway, one of our viewers will tell us. But one thing I want to kind of little pivot to with this whole, and I'd be remiss. Our engineer Bats tells me the price of a 12-pack of soda. He ended up paying $8.49 at the Giant for. What is up with that? I mean, that is crazy. $8.49 for a soda. And you can get the bottles are $2.50. You can get a generic for $1.09. But Don, maybe I'm aging myself, but I remember when you could buy like 5 bottles for $1, the 2-liter bottles for $1.
Yeah, McAuliffe was the governor.
Okay, so McAuliffe. Okay, but what I'm saying is Gillespie got more votes than Cuccinelli and McAuliffe did. So in theory, Gillespie should have won, but because of Sarwell, he pulled enough votes.
But I think what I'm saying is that the pollsters, the polls prior to that election, if you followed, they were behind double-digit votes and double digits in the percentages. And it was during that election night you started seeing these surges in these rural areas and kind of peri-urban areas that are coming up, and everyone's saying, "Whoa, there's this huge surge." And I think what it is like a lot of times if you look at the internals on these polls, they'll show you that like it'll be like 50-50 white males for Democrats and for Republicans, and that's just never been the case. And so I think what it is that people are just lying to pollsters or just not answering the question honestly. We hear about the Bradley effect, the Trump effect, the people just like not telling the truth of who they want to vote for. And I think with Virginia, I think that's one thing that like when you see a poll that's close, I always bank on the fact that like Republicans might really pull through at the end of the day because they will have the polls are not really reflective of what we're seeing. So
and also here's a couple of things Virginia is seeing that's going to play differently. They've got a measles outbreak in Northern Virginia, Central Virginia. Why? Because of Joe Biden, his failed Afghan policy. As you'd think you'd check these people out before you let them out into the wild, so to speak. Now there's kids show up to school with measles because thank you anti-vaxxer parents who decided they're not going to vax their kids. And next thing you know, you got this little mini measles outbreak. And the hospitals are filling up with. We don't hear about the hospitals that are filling up with kids with measles, which is funny because that doesn't follow the narrative of the left, frankly. And I think you've got inflation. I think Terry McAuliffe's commercial he's been doing on ending the food tax is really is bread and butter issues that comes down to Steve Forbes, who used to always know the price of a gallon of milk, the loaf of bread. I mean, here we're talking $8.49 for a 12-pack of canned sodas. I mean, you've got, and then you have Safeway has them for $4.99 each, which is still not much better, frankly, for canned sodas. And if you buy,
we were talking about the airport the other day. I was at the airport BWI.
Yeah.
I've never had burger cookies before, but I was like, oh, I've heard so much about burger cookies from Baltimore City. I have to try them. Mm-hmm. I went to the cash register. It was $13 for this stupid package of burger cookies. And I'm like, they were decent enough, but not worth $13 for a package of burger.
Well, I tell you this. My last time, when I flew down, my sodas made it through, TSA. They didn't take them out right. I'm flying back from Orlando, and I decided, okay, I'm going to put 2 packs of sodas in there opposed to just 1. Yeah, they got taken out. But then I bought a soda on the inside at the same price I paid at Publix. It's not, so why am I going to do that next? I'll just buy soda afterwards. A bottle of soda is basically $1.67. You can get roughly about which is still, I think, a little high because I remember those two. You get those individual bottles, like I guess they're they're not a liter, 16 ounces. Those 16-ounce bottles, you get them for about $1 something, but they're like $1.67 now, or $1.99 depending on where you get them. But I mean, that's nothing. Inflation. This is stuff that affects people. When the price of bacon is hitting a record, I'm not a bacon connoisseur myself, but it is a essential food.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a new confession here. Bacon pizza.
I mean, even look, the price of pizza has gone up. The dollar stores are now changing their names to $1.25 store.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, and we've talked a little bit about inflation. You definitely have been hitting Biden on this, kind of Biden gas and all these kinds of things. And the Federal Reserve has been saying, look, this inflation is transitory, but exactly how long we're going to live with this, quote, transitory, period, because every month when they report the inflation figures, they are moderating somewhat, but they're still the highest in 20, 30 years. And everybody, we're all feeling it. I mean, I don't even know what the price of something should be anymore, because it's just the prices keep changing. My wife.
You do stuff with the missionaries, right? You do that every year, right? The stuff you do with the missionaries.
I'm doing it almost every month.
No, I know, but you've been doing that for a couple of years. It's not like
I've been doing it for over 3 years. Yeah.
And have you noticed when you first started, and now, like when you take the missionaries out to lunch somewhere, it's costing you a lot, significantly more than it did before?
Sure. I mean, look. We used to. One of the favorite places we used to take them out to was called Cafe Rio.
Yeah. How is that place? I've heard good things.
We love it. I mean, it came out of Utah, and it's very popular in Utah. But here, the local franchises in Germantown, Rockville, and Olney, on Tuesday they would do they call it Tasty Tuesday. So burritos and salads, I think it was. Anyway, they were $5.99 was the Tuesday special instead of like $8.49. But now that Tasty Tuesday is up to $7.99, and the burritos are like $10.49 or $10.19. The cost of ingredients, cost of everything's going up. We've seen that take place within the last year and a half. I don't blame these guys because ingredient costs have gone up. When they can't find workers, they got to pay them more, so that has to feed into the cost of everything as well. It's. I know, Dwight, you used to rail about the price of milk, and I was bragging how much Walmart was selling it up in Germantown for $1.49, but they finally got to a point where I think they couldn't do anymore, so then they went from $1.49 to $2.09. So that they raised the price about 40% within a span of a couple of weeks. They're probably still losing money on it, but it's still cheaper than the Safeways and the Giants. But
$3.79 a gallon is what they charge.
It's real.
$3.79 is what they charge at basically the Safeway. If you buy organic, it's $6.49 a gallon.
Yeah, what is organic? Come on,
I think the issue of inflation for me has been something I struggle to try to explain to I'm originally from Idaho, and I have a lot of kind of country bumpkin family members. And every time I try to explain it to them, I feel like I have to use sock puppets. And it's the but what worries me about this, because my failure to explain things, I try to be as plain spoken as possible, but I see the left increasingly, especially here in Maryland, I see a lot of the disparity of kind of what we call the corporate Democrats, and then this woke, progressives. And I see it already kind of moving into this territory of living wage and using inflation as an argument for living wage. And I feel like and the only way that you can combat that is to try to explain how inflation actually works, and how a living wage is not going to actually solve the problem. But the problem of doing that is just people are just not getting that message, I have yet to articulate it well to people to explain to them this is what inflation, this is how it works, this is and how it's affected, and the living wage will not actually solve the problem. But I think it's something to be on the horizon, the coming months or the 2022. that becomes a campaign issue for some like kind of progressive Democrats to say, we need a living wage in whatever county or whatever state to combat this.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Breacher, if you're making $15 an hour, which all the Democrats think that's a lot of money, you can't afford $3.79 for a gallon of milk. You can't afford $4.49 for a loaf of bread. And the cheapest loaf of bread I'm finding right now on Safeway's website is their generic, their house brand, which has really got all the bad stuff in it for you. $2.99, $3 for a loaf of bread. I remember when I was a kid, you get like 4 loaves of bread for $1. And this would be like Wonder Bread or something, not the house.
Those days are long gone.
I know they're gone. But my point is this: bread can be made really. I mean, I made bread during the lockdown. It's not that hard to do. It's just some flour, yeast, and water, really. And
but Grisha, you're right about this inflation thing in the sense that I've read stories where people are jobs during the pandemic, were maybe making $12 an hour. Then some of these people got new jobs now for $15 an hour, and they're thinking like, "Hey, this is great! I just got a 25% raise." But then, because of inflation, because of all these crazy things that have been going on, is that the cost of a buy, some of the basics has gone up. That they're not really any better off than they were before, and yet
exactly.
$15 for what was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? This was the big liberal mantra: fight for 15. We got to give people this living wage is $15. Well, $15 an hour is what, $31,000 a year. That is not a lot of money. You cannot support a family on $31,000 a year in most places in the United States. Okay, so
good night.
I
saw the price of Oreo cookies is $5 for a pack of Oreos. Oh, that's the family size.
This is why most of my shopping is done at Costco and Sam's.
And the thin cookies, you can't buy the thin ones at Costco's, Don.
I know. I mean, you have to live. You have to live with what they stock. But I got to tell you. I mean, I'm amazed at how Costco has changed the way I look at life, or at least the goods. It's like, maybe I want this flavor of cereal or whatever. Well, Costco and Sam's are only going to stock X number of brands and varieties. Like, this is it. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's so much cheaper unless you get an extremely good sale at the grocery store. That's what you do. It's like, I modified myself. Okay, I'll take that. I can eat that. It's not my favorite thing, but I'll eat that because I don't want to pay 50% more for the thing at the store anymore.
I think at Costco's for $5 you can buy the big
and
pack.
So modified a lot of those things.
I think at Costco's you can buy the big pack of Oreo cookies for $5.
Costco is great now too, because if you go back to the early days of Costco, we get those coupon books and all those stupid little coupons, and you had to give them to the cashier so that they could scan them and take them off. Now it's all automatic, right now, which is great because you buy the product up to the limit or whatever, anytime, and then you're done. You don't have to carry any stupid little coupons or anything like this. Costco is just an amazing company. Mother is probably spinning in her grave. Think if she's watching me now, for the fact that a lot of clothing I wear, my casual clothing, comes from Costco. It's Kirkland, which I don't know who's making it, but it's pretty good stuff, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper than anywhere else. But my mother raised me on name brand everything.
Mm-hmm. And here's something else, Don.
So this is
yeah. And by the way, they're saying prices are going to go up. Like the price of butter right now, you get a 4-pack of butter at Costco's for $3.99, $8.99. But that's probably going to go up to like $11.99 in a couple of months. So, hey, all you holiday bakers, stock up on butter today.
Well, look. I mean, Costco announced that they're going to start limiting how much water and like toilet paper and towels and things people can buy because they're looking at a supply crunch potentially, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've got you've been down in my basement before. That room that I have over here, it had already been buying this stuff, and yet she was out the other day at Costco and she bought her pack of toilet paper. I'm like, there's two of us. It'll take us forever to go through all the stuff we've got, but whatever. You remember our friend Jeanette Radford? She posted on Facebook that I guess she had a closet full of toilet paper. You know, she finally kind of went through that pandemic supply, and she's like, "Oh, great! Now they're saying that there may be another shortage." You know, and she's thinking like, "Just when I was freeing my closet, I'm going to have to probably be stopped for all of this." It is just, you know, I'm looking at today like I did, you know, what is it, 25 years ago or whatever, when you'd go and you'd see a sale or whatever, and then you'd buy, if it's not something that had a long shelf life, you'd buy 2, 3, or 4 or 5 of those and you'd put them on your shelf because you knew that probably in a couple months they're 2, 3, 4, or 5% more expensive. So you were basically trying to beat the inflation that was going on at the time, particularly when I was a teenager. It was crazy, right?
Jimmy
During
Carter.
the Carter years.
Yeah.
And it was a race to try. You were buying things because it was just seemed like, you know, 2 weeks later it was another, you know, 50 cents or whatever. But the price of just things that you need, cooking oil and all this kind of stuff, it's like 30-40% more expensive was a year ago.
2 gallons of corn oil is $23 at Costco's. You know, just 2 gallons of Mazola corn oil is $23.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. I mean,
olive oil used to be that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, and it's like I'm just glad there's certain things I don't have to buy in my life anymore, like diapers and stuff like that. You know, they were already going up when my kids were in diapers.
Yeah. And we're actually over time, but let's do closing thoughts real quick because I got a great one. Final thoughts, everyone. You can have more than one thoughts. Let's start with Dr. Breacher from Earth 32 because I'm sure he's got some criminals he needs to go catch with Accelerated Man, right?
Yeah, I guess. I think I kind of hinted at it earlier. I thought the issue of vaccine mandates and I think vaccine passports. It's interesting to see what's been happening in New York with the kind of the BLM movement turning against the passport issue in New York. I think it's been something. I think that it's been. As it's been enacted and it's been rolled out, I think I've always been surprised of how little dissent has been pushed. You know, I mean, obviously the conservative folks who are pushing against it, but the labor unions and other, you know, industries that are affected by it, I'm surprised that they're so willing to go along with it. I think that the BLM is like, I guess this point of dissent. I think it just shows it's maybe it's the tip of the iceberg. Maybe it's a sign of something bigger that's about to happen. But I think that's been something I've been following more closely. So I think I'd be curious to see that. I'm trying to think of here in Maryland. I think it's been same old. I guess you know. I'm increasingly seeing a little bit. I guess here in Maryland, the rhino term not being thrown around as much. And I think a part of it is just I guess the sad reality for folks who are like more the conservative end, and you know, Larry Hogan is too much of a rhino or whatever. Like it's kind of to quote Donald Rumsfeld, you don't go to war with the army you want, you go to war with the army you have. And I think, you know, in the past 3 years, there's been a lack of grooming of certain candidates to try to, you know, debunk these like so-called rhinos. All 3 Republicans who are elected in office. That there's like I just find it. So I think, I mean, I started to see that a little bit more dissipating. So I think maybe it's the time for Republicans to kind of like get together and finally like to join forces to move towards 2022 as a united front, let the Democrats kind of break apart. But we'll see.
Don, final thoughts?
Yeah, just to your point on this whole vaccine thing, I mean, we're definitely seeing this kind of strange bedfellows, right? Ted Cruz is aligning himself with the NBA anti-vaxxers. It's pretty. Those guys would normally be together and on the same page on anything.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying that part of it. But for final thoughts, William Shatner, one of Dwight's favorite guys, I'm sure. So he's 90 years old. 90 years old, and he's going to be taking a Jeff Bezos Blue Origin flight on October 12th. So that'll last about 10 minutes, but because they will technically reach space, he'll be the oldest person to ever have flown in space. So, and there are a lot. There's a lot.
Uniform.
That was exactly right. That's exactly what I was going to say. There have been a lot of calls for him. They ought to be wearing a Star Trek uniform. Other people have said, "Yeah, bring your phaser."
He should. You never know what you'll see up there. You know.
I mean, that would just be kind of funny. I mean, I just think the whole.
He should have the other people wear red shirts. The other astronauts.
I mean, why not dress as a Star Trek crew if you're gonna? It's only 10 minutes. You know,
That's true, yeah.
Why not do it? This is not like you're going into deep space. So
yeah,
why not do that? So here for William Shatner, still going strong at age 90. Let him reach into the history books on going into space. I think that's fabulous. The other thing I want to say is an homage to Dwight. This is October, and it is National Pizza Month.
Yes, it is.
31 days to celebrate, Dwight. This is it. This is your month.
I know. I think we should be celebrating your birthday at a pizza place. Maybe it's Stained Glass Pub instead of over at Uncle Julio's. I'm thinking. I know.
But Uncle Julio's is so much closer to my home.
You used to live right by Stained Glass Pub. You were like 5-10 minutes away.
I used to live a lot closer. Now I live closer to Rio.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Don?
That'll be it.
Okay, I've got a final thought. I got a couple of thoughts, but the first one is this has to deal with our friends in Prince George's County. And County Executive Angela Alsabrook, I don't know if you guys know, she's been dealing with zebras running around rampant, and she has enlisted Craven the Hunter to solve her zebra problem. And she's told Craven, bring the zebras to justice, dead or alive, and she said dead or alive after this guy here, the zebra, photobombed her at this press conference, mocking the county executive and scampered off. This is Craven the Hunter, if you know. He's a foe of Spider-Man's, but he's also a hunter extraordinaire, and he did team up with Spider-Man a couple times in the comic books. And we know this is our zebra from Madagascar who's running around. Him and his friends are running around Prince George's County, giving this woman the slip. And that's that. I think
maybe they can fix the school board over there.
Yeah, well, the zebras are running around there, and they're making a monkey out of the. Oh, I should not have said that. They're making a fool out of the county executive there.
You gotta watch out.
Yeah, I know. It's like there was
racism.
There was an episode of the Flintstones where their universe is Perry Masonry. That was the lawyer that was trying to take Bam Bam Rubbles away from the Rubbles because. And Betty goes, look, they're making Barney look like a monkey, and he's jumping up and down and acting like a monkey on the stand. But great episode, everyone should watch it. I met some great young CRs over at the Red, White, and Blue dinner, including this Russian immigrant. He goes to Towson. I don't know his name. I forgot his name.
Alexei.
But I found out that he can indeed apply for a Pathways internship at NASA Goddard. So
he is, I can tell you more about him offline. He is a wonderful, wonderful guy. He is a good friend. He also excludes me from hanging out with him because I am too old. He reminds me that I'm a boomer. So, which is fine.
Well, he was spending a lot of time with me at the Red, White, and Blue, and I'm a lot older than you are.
Yeah, he's good. He's a great guy. I was actually on the phone with him earlier this evening. He's, but very, very smart guy. Very,
he's a geography major.
Yeah. I'll tell you more offline.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be back next week. I think we're going to have, next week. Oh, Direct Line is off this Wednesday because we're all going to be in Howard County at the Lincoln Day
Greatest
dinner.
county in the world.
Yeah. Next to Anne Arundel. But it's going to be great seeing our friends out there, and Governor Ehrlich is going to be the keynote speaker there. Governor Ehrlich also in 2022 will be marking his 20th year since he's run for governor. So we got a lot of celebrating to do in 2022. the election of. By the way, how's it looking? Real. Actually, let's go off. Thank you, everyone. We'll see everyone next week. Take care.